Welcome to the Create What You Speak podcast. Join me as we have a real-life discussion on how to change your life by changing your thoughts. Remember, question everything, trust yourself, and find your truth. Welcome to the Create What You Speak podcast. My name is Sloan Fremont, and I'm your host. This is the show where we talk about how to change our lives by changing our thoughts. That's been one of the core principles that I've taught on the show or talked about on the show over the past several years. But another side of that, another piece of that I talk about all the time is about getting really clear and really intentional about what you want in your life. And today I wanted to share my personal experience with that. I wanted to share how my life has changed because the big thing that changed for me is I got married. I got married just a couple of days ago to my wonderful husband. We live here in Nashville. And I was thinking back over my journey, even on this show, if we think about for the last 5 years that I've done this show, one of the big things that I talked about on the show was my struggle with relationships, with having the kind of partner that I wanted, having the relationship that I wanted, and my struggles with believing that I could have what it was that I wanted. And so I was thinking about that. As I was thinking about what to talk about this week and about what I really learned from that. What have I learned in my journey, and what could I offer you, the listener, if you're in your own journey of getting the thing that you want in life. Maybe it's the thing that you want the most. And it doesn't have to be the relationship. It can be anything. It could be the business. It could be the family. It could be whatever it is for you, the creativity, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. We all want something, and we all can have the thing that we want if we're willing to allow ourselves to go there. So I wanted to share just kind of some things that I learned along the way for me, as far as relationships, what I focused on, how I changed some things. Also, I think the biggest thing was, life brings so many unexpected changes. And if we're willing to ride that wave and to look at those changes as happening to our benefit, even if we can't see it in the moment, that right there in itself can help us eliminate so much struggle and so much pain from our own life. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. I'm calling this episode, I Got Married and Other Unexpected Changes That Life Brings. So that's what we're going to get into today. If you haven't connected with me on social media yet, please be sure to go to the show notes. I have the links to all my social media on there. You can follow me. We can get connected. If you're not on my Telegram channel, please join that one. That's the one I'm the most active on. So I would love to connect with you on there. So all the links are in the show notes. So be sure to check that out. All right. So I got married and other unexpected changes that life brings. So I was thinking about how to present this. And there's so many things, right? I mean, I'm talking 20 some years of this, right? So I'm condensing down in a, 15, 20 minute show here, some of the bigger things that I learned and some of the quick takeaways that I think you can maybe start to look at in your own life, maybe look at things a little different, change your perspective, and see what changes for you when you change how you're looking at things. I think I have about 4 things that I'm going to share with you today. So these are pretty high level. And maybe as we go over the next couple months, I'll get into some of these a little bit more and go into more detail. But for today, I'm just going to go high level. And as I was writing these out, I realized how cliche all of this sounds that I'm going to tell you. And actually, I looked up the definition for cliche because I was like, we say that word a lot, but what does it actually mean? So here's the definition. Cliche is a trite, stereotype expression, a sentence or phrase, usually expressing a popular or common thought or idea that has lost originality, ingenuity, and impact by long overuse. So everything I'm going to share with you today has probably lost originality, ingenuity, and impact because it's been overused so much. But the thing is, with a cliche, expressing popular or common thought, which I know popular and common thought aren't always for our benefit most times. But with what I'm going to tell you today, these things are. There's nothing here that's radical. There isn't anything I did that was crazy. There isn't anything that I had to exert a lot of effort or a lot of, twist myself and contort myself or become a different version of myself to do this. It was none of those things. Absolutely not. In fact, it was the opposite. Once I eased up on myself and I realized, wait a minute, I don't have to put so much pressure on myself and I don't have to do this in any particular way. Things started to change. So the biggest thing was not to give up on that thing that you want. And there's so many easy ways that we do this, that we give up on the things that we want, right? We give up because maybe it feels hard. We give up because it's taking so much time. We give up because we don't think we can do it. We give up because people tell us that we can't have it or that we're not deserving of it, or we tell ourselves that from stories from childhood. But as I was going through my discovery of relationships, the one thing that I knew stood out in the back of my mind was that I can have this. Just because this relationship failed, or just because we didn't work out, this person and I didn't work out, doesn't mean I can't have the thing that I want. I always knew in the back of my mind that I could have what I wanted. It just wasn't that person just wasn't the right one. And that was key as I think back to how I approached failed relationship, failure, right? Relationship failure each time. And you guys, I'm 44 years old. So it's not like I was, I'm not, it took a while to get here. And I'm telling you this because, again, if you're in this situation where there's something that you want, there's a dream that you have, there's something you're going after, and you feel like it's taking you a long time, it's okay. It's okay. You're not necessarily doing anything wrong. It doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean you can't have it. It just means your path is different than other people. And that's so important to understand that we're all on a different path. We don't follow this cookie cutter as much as society or maybe our families would like us to believe. We don't always follow the cookie cutter path, right? My husband and I didn't follow the normal wedding path. We went and did our own thing. Our families weren't even there. A lot of our family was caught off guard by that and they were shocked, but that's what we wanted to do. We did it for us. We didn't do it for other people. So there's not giving up on what you want. It sounds like cliche because probably it is, but it is so true. Because if you're going to give up on the only way to not get what you want is to give up on it. That's obvious, right? But even I can tell you from my own experiences, we were getting closer to our wedding day. It felt like I was even trying to find reasons to give up on myself, to tell myself that I couldn't have what I wanted, right? I was trying to find these like exits or these reasons why, like, see, it's not going to work. I had all of these things, right? Like I ruined my dress, the first dress that I had. I ironed the lace. Don't ever iron lace. That doesn't turn out good. And I had to learn that the hard way. And so that happened. And I was like, oh, shit, well, okay, I guess that means we can't get married because I don't have a dress. Well, no, actually that didn't mean that at all. It just simply meant that I ironed lace and I shouldn't have, and move on, get a new dress, right? It was a very simple solution, but I was putting way more meaning on it, way more, maybe definition to what happened, because I was still in some way it felt like I was trying to find that exit, even though the exit wasn't what I wanted. I didn't want that. And, there were a lot of other little things that happened, like, coming up to the end of it. But the point was, I didn't listen to that voice. I didn't listen to those old stories that wanted to come up. And I didn't give up on what I wanted. I didn't give up on my dream to be married to an amazing person, to have this amazing life together. And this was something I wanted to experience. This was absolutely what I wanted to experience. And I got it. I got what I wanted. Like I said, I had my vision board. I created the thing that I wanted. I had my actual engagement ring on the vision board. I had the Mr. and Mrs., a picture of us on the vision board, because that's what I wanted. And when I did this, I have my vision board. I have it up here, and it was created on August 9th, 2022. And we were married on September 30th, 2022. And I can tell you the day I made that vision board, we didn't know what we were going to do. We didn't know if this was how we were going to move forward. We were trying to figure out where we're going to live. What are we going to do? How's this going to go? And when I was creating that, I didn't know what was going to happen, but that was what I focused on. I focused on what I wanted. I focused on a positive path forward for us. I focused on us being together, and our lives completely changed once we got very clear about that is what we wanted. And, we chose that path because that's what this how I choose to look at it is I chose this. This is what I want. This is how I want my life to go. And I would say that, having that, being willing to do that, being willing to not give up was the biggest thing the best thing I did for myself through all those years of failed relationships, people telling me this, people telling me that, you should do this, you shouldn't do that. Get on dating apps. Don't get on dating apps. You should meet this person. Oh, you'll never find somebody. You're too old. You're never going to get married. Whatever it was. I didn't give up on myself, and I didn't give up on my dream. Like what you hear so far? Take what you've learned and invest in yourself with the Create What You Speak Academy. Visit createwhatyouSpeak.com to learn more. Now back to the show. The second thing, I learned we can't control life, but we can control our response to it. And again, this sounds so freaking cliche because it is, but it is so true. I mean, there's some old saying that something like life is, 10% what happens to us and 90% how we respond to it. And I realized that after my dad passed away this year. I mean, this whole year, as I look back on this whole year, I'm like, damn, like I never would have ever guessed this is how my year would have went. But I really realized that after my dad passed away was that, I mean, I could have closed up. I could have closed myself off. I could have chose to stay in that hurt, but I chose the opposite. I chose to use that as a catalyst for growth and for opening myself up more and expanding. And that's one of the big things I learned in grief counseling after my dad was that, we have a choice in how we respond to what happens, and you can choose either way. It doesn't matter. It's your choice, however you want to experience your life. But for me personally, I chose expansion. I chose to use that terrible thing as almost like it opened me up, like it broke me open. And I chose to use that in a positive way for myself because I wasn't afraid anymore. Like the worst thing had happened. So I wasn't afraid. And so I chose love over the sadness. And it wasn't easy. It didn't even feel doable at the time, but I did it. That's what I did. And you can do it too. So if you face something terrible, if you experience something like I did with unexpected death, we can't control that, right? We can never control anything. We can't control the world, but we can control how we respond to it, and we can control our choice in the response, and we can control what we want to do with what happened, right? Immediately for me, after my dad passed, I started counseling because I'm like, I don't know how to deal with this. I don't know. I'm not equipped for this and I need help. And that was probably one of the best things I did. And I think that also was what led me to be able to be open enough to have the thing that I want, right? The fear, I let go of the fear because I felt like there was nothing else to be afraid of. And so that response that we choose is so important, and it's so much more in our grasp than we allow ourselves to believe. Often we think our responses they just happen, or they're just natural, and sometimes they do because we've conditioned ourselves to respond in a certain way. But if you stop and you become more aware, and you're willing to be aware of what your responses are, you can start to change those. You can start to change in your little things that happen every day in your life. So then you set yourself up for changing those bigger things. So that was number 2. I learned we can't control life, but we can control our response to life. And number 3 kind of goes along with this, letting go and letting in what you want, because that's another thing, right? We can say we want these things, but then, we don't let them in sometimes, right? Because our fears are getting in the way. We put up walls. We spend all this time not having the thing that we want. And then when we get it, it's like, oh shit, now I have this thing. Now I don't know what to do with it, right? I don't know what to do with it. How do I handle this? And we tell ourselves all the stories like we can't keep it, or it wasn't for us, or, whatever it is. And so letting in, like being relaxing into it and letting yourself have the thing that you say you want is, that was one of the big things that I had to experience for myself and understand like what that meant for me and for my situation, so that I wasn't getting the thing, but then pushing it away after I got it. Right. Cause I did a lot of that over the years too, getting it, not just relationships, like, a lot of things in my life. I got the thing, but then I pushed it away as soon as I got it. So that awareness of that understanding, if you have behaviors like that, is so key to allowing yourself to have the things that you want in your life. And then the last thing that I learned was being willing to change for the thing that you want. Because for myself, I felt like the thing I want was just going to arrive one day. The relationship in this example was just going to arrive, and everything else about me would stay the same, right? I would stay the same. I would keep doing the same thing. My house would stay the same. My daily routine would stay the same. My life would stay the same, right? It was just this addition of this other thing that I wanted so bad. And that couldn't have been farther from the truth, right? I mean, everything changed, but it changed in a good way, right? Because I have this person in my life now. I have the relationship that I want. I have a partner. I have somebody I can trust. I have somebody we're working together. I don't have to do everything alone. If you've listened to any of my previous shows, you know that word alone for so long was something that like triggered me. Like I couldn't even say it for so long because of what it felt like to me, what it meant, the meaning I had assigned to it. And so being willing to change for the thing you want, that can be tough at first. It was for me, like when my husband moved in. I mean, I haven't lived with anybody since I was 18, right? I've lived alone my whole adult life. So there's all of that going on, like adjusting to living together, and me really having to check myself to be, wait a minute, like, is this how you want to be? Is this how you want to experience your relationship with him? Is this who you are? Because just because you did things before, like I noticed with myself, I did a lot of things just to keep myself busy. All right. When everything was shut down and everything was just terrible, and he was deployed during all that too. And when all that happened, I realized now I can see myself that I was doing things just to keep myself busy, and maybe they weren't necessary things, but they had become a routine. And so having him move in caused me, I had to check myself on some of this stuff. Like, why am I even doing this? Is this really a big deal? Does it really matter? And most of the stuff really didn't, but yet it was causing friction with us because I was still holding on to those old ways. And so I know change can feel, we talked a lot on here about change, and I know change can feel like we can resist it. Like it's very easy to resist change. And because that's just human nature, right? We want to hold on, self-preservation, right? We want to hold on to that part of us that we know. But when we soften up and we're willing to change, for me, it made my experience so much better. It made it so much more like, this is how it gets to be. Like I got to experience myself in a new way. Not only did I get to experience, or do I get to experience my life with him, I get to experience myself differently as I experience life with him, because I was willing to change. And that change for me looked like I said, like letting some things go, like not getting so freaked out if the house isn't spick and span all the time, or, moving my clothes around so we could share the closet together. Even like the daily routine of like, I cook, like I like to cook, but I don't have time a lot during the week. So there are some adjustments there I had to make because now it's both of us. And so how are we going to do this together? So we're both, so we can both eat, right? And it's not all on me. And learning that I can trust him, and being willing to do that and understand that I don't have to do it alone anymore. That was a big change for me. And it's been a lot, it's still ongoing. I mean, I'm still going through it, but it's all good and it's all positive. And I think letting yourself change for whatever it is that you want is one of the key things you can do for yourself to experience that thing you want in such a positive way. And so, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, that life works in mysterious ways that benefit us if we're willing to work with it. Often we want to push against us. I know I'm the queen of that, pushing against change, resisting it. The quickest way for me to not do something is for someone to tell me to do it, right? And then I'm going to do everything I can not to do it. But in our lives, when we experience our world and everything that comes with it, we can't control it, as we've talked about. All we can do, what I've learned, probably the biggest thing, all we can do is just ride that wave of life. Ride that wave. Be willing to be flexible enough. Be willing to, even in those instances where it's something you absolutely do not want, you wish it wouldn't have happened. Sometimes there's nothing we can do. We can't control it all. And I think being willing to work with the universe instead of resisting it or pulling away, probably is one of the biggest lessons. And I think that's what broke me open after everything with my dad and allowed me really to get here where I am today and use it in a positive way. And so I wanted to just share those updates with you. And our topic today, I got married and other unexpected changes life brings, and what I really learned from all that. And again, if you're listening to this and there's something that you want in your own life, I mean, it doesn't have to be the relationship. It can be anything. But I'm hoping that my intention with this was these points, these high level points, help you start to look at your life in a different way, maybe your situation, help reignite whatever that dream is for you so that you don't give up on it, so that you keep moving forward, no matter how long it takes, even if it feels like it's taking way too long and you're sick of it and you're over it. Keep going. Don't give up. Hopefully you can see from my story that dreams do come true. And that's what I want for you as well. All right, so that's it for this week. If you have any questions, please email me, sloanfremont@pm.me. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your feedback and hear your thoughts on what you've been through in your life and how unexpected changes have worked in your favor and what you learned. You've been listening to the Create What You Speak podcast, brought to you by webtalkradio.net. You can also hear the podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, and your favorite podcasting platform. I'm Sloan Fremont, and I hope you'll join me for the next episode of the Create What You Speak podcast, where we will continue to free our minds, expand our consciousness, and untangle those thoughts and patterns that keep us from living the life we desire. Check out my website, sloanfremont.com, to learn more.